Thank you.
Well caffeinated.
Absolutely.
That's organic Nicaraguan coffee you've been drinking.
Glad to hear it.
So have you been working on the, we had someone on a couple weeks ago letting folks know about the last meetings. Have you been working on participatory budgeting since its start this year?
Since the start this year, yes. I was a member last year of the Transportation Committee. In other words, I was one of the residents of the 49th Ward of Rogers Park who took ideas from our friends and neighbors, from the community, and then sifted through them to figure out what ideas would work in terms of using the alderman, his available menu money.
It's understandable that you'd make that slip.
Well, of course. He's the mayor of Rogers Park, as we all know. But it's a process by which the residents of the ward figure out what street repairs, what sidewalk repairs, what bike lanes should be put in. Exactly. Mm-hmm. That rather than having the alderman pick each one and decide on his own or her own, the ward residents do it. And in Chicago and Illinois, that's unique. I was involved in picking the transportation projects last year, and this year was recruited for the leadership committee, so we've been helping oversee the entire process.
I want to say it's one of the more impressive volunteer efforts of the many that happen in terms of just sheer time and effort put in by folks. Because you still have to, for each project, the volunteers who are putting the project up have to figure out how much it costs, right?
Exactly.
They have to put a budget amount on it.
Exactly, and that entails dealing with city agencies. Sometimes if you're talking about things related to the L or Metro stations, you have to go talk then to CTA, Metra, and the Union Pacific Railroad, since they own all the infrastructure. And it's a real education in not only how things work and sometimes why they cost so much, but also in sometimes why things don't happen as quickly as you would want or expect them to.
Very useful for citizens to know all of this. So this year, if you could just, I know that the election, we're going to make sure that people know when the election is, which is April 28th, is that?
Yeah, voting day is Saturday, April 28th over at the Chicago Math and Science Academy on North Clark Street. But this year we're also doing early voting the week leading up to the 28th. So that'll be available all weekday long at the ward office over at Greenview and Jarvis. And we're also doing scattered site early voting, and the dates and times will be at some of the we'll be at the Howard, Morrison, Jarvis L stations. We'll be at Potawatomi Park and St. Jerome's in the Parish Center. So we're really trying to reach out to people and bring more people into the process.
That's a great idea.
John, are there any projects that didn't win last year that are back on the ballot this year, and are there any new projects on the ballot?
There are always new projects, and yes, there are some projects that didn't make it last year, especially in sidewalk repairs. I was on the committee that helped figure out which sidewalks needed to be repaired, and a lot of those, unfortunately, the price came back much higher when we asked the city, how much will this cost? We figured a few tens of thousands of dollars. They came back and said several $100,000. So there are some sidewalk repair projects that were proposed last year that didn't make it. They're back on the ballot this year. New projects, they're always new ones, mostly new ones.
What's the weirdest sport kind of a new project?
No weird sports projects, unfortunately, although we've got from the Arts and Innovation Committee about nothing really weird there, but they are proposing, for example, to plant several hundred trees. We've got
that's pretty weird.
Which in Rogers Park, well, with global warming, we have to replace the traditional trees with ones that'll take the new
temperatures,
the new temperatures and the new climate zones. So that's not so bad.
No.
Let's see some of the highlights for transportation. Folks are proposing several dozen bus benches at bus stops all around the ward. Traffic and public safety, they've got street crossing and traffic light improvements. Parks and environment, they're proposing improvements at Potawatomi and Toohey Parks. Let's see, they're also got...
and Albion and Hardigan.
Yeah, they also got a proposal for a community garden, improvements at Dubkin Park.
Yep.
And the rest of it is mostly streets repairs, because the bulk of the neighborhood residential street this is the pot of money that they get repaired with. So that's the bulk of what most people will see on the ballot.
And in our third year of doing participatory budgeting, residents have finally figured out, we've got to do some street repair. I know the first one, everybody said, yeah, let's have sculptural bicycle lock places and murals and stuff. And then they bumped along for the remainder of the year and went, maybe we need some street repairs.
It's going on out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the interesting things. This is an educational process. People, even those of us who've done it for a couple of years are learning new things about how this works all the time. And each year a few adjustments get made. That's why last year there was on the ballot a separate question about percentage.
That's right.
What percentage of the menu money should be devoted exclusively to streets right from the get-go.
Yeah,
that question is on the ballot again this year. So
smart.
people will be able to vote percentage ranging from, I think, 10 to 100%, and an average will be taken of all those votes, and that average will be just right off the top devoted to street repairs.
So, John Davis, this is an excellent civic engagement practice that we have, thanks to our Ward Alderman, Joe Moore, going into its third year. And the early voting at various stations is a terrific idea. Where do people go to get all the information they need to make sure they cast a ballot? And by the way, everybody can vote, right? You don't have to be a citizen. You don't have to be 18.
That's correct. You do have to be 16.
Okay.
And some form of ID just to prove that you live in the ward. Mm-hmm. Like if you have a driver's license or a state ID, that's good. Otherwise, just bring a piece of mail that has your address, or if you're 16 or 17, just something that proves your age, and you're good to go. But you're right, you don't have, citizen status is not.
Give us that website
relevant.
One more time.
The website, there are two places. If you go to ward49.com, that's the standard ward office, you can find a link to participatory budgeting from the right-hand side. You can also check out the blog and this is a mouthful, so Participatory Budgeting 49, that's number 49.com. There's an alternate one that's Participatory Budgeting 49.wordpress.com, but any of those links will get you there.
Let's have a big round of applause for John Davis. Keep up
you.
the good work.
Thank you for your work, John.
Thank you for your time.
You are listening to the Live from the Heartland show. We're brought to you every Saturday morning on WLUW 88.7, Chicago Sound Alliance.
Are we going to take a break? I'm elbowing you.